The elegant restaurant on Park Avenue was known for its chandeliers, polished silverware, and exclusive clientele. It wasn't just a place to eat, it was a place where the wealthy and powerful came to be seen. On any given night, businessmen in tailored suits and women in designer dresses filled the velvet booths, sipping fine wine and closing million-dollar deals over steak dinners. Among the waitstaff was Daniel Brooks, a black man in his early 40s. He wore the crisp black and white uniform like every other waiter, moving gracefully from table to table with trays balanced perfectly in his hands. To the diners, he looked like just another employee serving food. But behind his calm eyes and polite smile was a story no one in that room could have guessed. Daniel wasn't a waiter because he had to be. In fact, he didn't need the job at all. He was there because he wanted to see his company, the company he had just been appointed to lead, from the ground up. Earlier that month, Daniel had been promoted as the new CEO of a massive hospitality group that owned dozens of luxury restaurants across the country. But instead of announcing himself with press releases and photo shoots, he decided to start quietly observing the culture of his new empire firsthand. That night, however, his disguise would reveal more than he had anticipated. At one corner table sat Greg Thompson, a wealthy customer in his 50s. Greg was loud, brash, and entitled, the kind of man who snapped his fingers at staff and treated them like servants. As Daniel approached to take his order, Greg sneered. Finally, Greg said, glancing at his watch, "What took you so long? You people are always slow." Daniel's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "My apologies, sir. May I take your order?" Greg smirked at his companions, leaning back in his chair. "Sure, but can you handle it? Or do I need someone smarter? Maybe the manager? I don't know if this waiter is up to the task." The table erupted in cruel laughter. Daniel felt the sting of the insult, but he kept his composure. He wrote down the order with steady hands, thanked them politely, and walked away. Inside, though, he made a quiet decision. He wasn't just going to serve Greg dinner tonight. He was going to serve him a lesson. When the meal was over and the plates cleared, Greg leaned back with his wine glass and snapped his fingers again. "Waiter, bill." Daniel returned with a folder in his hand. But instead of simply handing over the check, he placed it gently on the table, then sat down across from Greg. The customers nearby glanced curiously at the unusual sight of a waiter sitting with a guest. Greg frowned. "What do you think you're doing? Did I invite you to sit?" Daniel's voice was steady, but now carried an authority that silenced the nearby tables. "Mr. Thompson, allow me to introduce myself properly. My name is Daniel Brooks. I am not just your waiter tonight. I am the newly appointed CEO of Brooks Hospitality Group, the company that owns this restaurant and dozens more like it across the country." Greg's smirk disappeared. His glass wobbled slightly in his hand. Daniel continued, his gaze unwavering. "I took this job on the floor because I wanted to see firsthand how our customers treated our staff and how my staff treated our customers. Tonight, I witnessed something I will never forget." Greg shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his face turning red. His companions looked away, embarrassed. "You mocked me," Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. "Not because of my service, not because of anything I did wrong, but because of the color of my skin. You reduced me to a stereotype, as if my value as a human being depended on your approval." The restaurant had fallen completely silent. Every guest, every waiter, every chef peeking from the kitchen listened in awe. Daniel leaned forward slightly. "Here's the thing, Mr. Thompson. Respect is not optional in this establishment. It is the foundation of everything we do. We serve food, yes, but more importantly, we serve dignity. And anyone who cannot understand that has no place here, whether customer or employee." Greg's mouth opened and closed, but no words came. For the first time that evening, his arrogance had vanished. Daniel stood, buttoning his jacket. "Your bill tonight has been covered, but this will be your last meal here. You are no longer welcome in any of my restaurants." Gasps echoed across the room. Some guests clapped quietly, others exchanged wide-eyed looks. Greg, red-faced and humiliated, scrambled to his feet and stormed out, leaving his companions behind. When the door shut behind him, the room erupted in applause. Diners stood, clapping and cheering, while waiters smiled with pride. Daniel raised his hand for quiet. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "this is a reminder. Every person who serves you in this restaurant, every waiter, every cook, every dishwasher, deserves your respect. They are not invisible. They are not beneath you. They are the reason your experience here is possible. And as long as I lead this company, they will be treated with dignity." The applause grew louder, echoing through the chandeliers. For the staff, it was a moment of vindication. For the guests, it was a lesson they would never forget. From that night on, word spread quickly about the CEO who disguised himself as a waiter and put a racist customer in his place. The story made headlines. CEO poses as waiter, shuts down racist customer in powerful speech. Across social media, people praised Daniel for his courage and humility. But for Daniel, it wasn't about headlines. It was about principle. He knew what it was like to be underestimated, to be dismissed, to be mocked for things beyond his control. Rising to CEO hadn't erased those memories, it had only strengthened his resolve to change the culture of his industry. Weeks later, Daniel gathered his team. "We will not just run restaurants," he told them. "We will run places where respect is served alongside the food. That is what will set us apart." And so, the man who had once been mocked at his own table became a symbol of leadership, proving that true power doesn't come from money or titles, but from standing firm in the face of prejudice. The customer who laughed at him thought he was ridiculing a waiter. In reality, he was ridiculing the man who signed the paychecks, the man who set the rules, the man who owned the very roof over his head. And as Daniel often reminded his staff in the months that followed, you never know who's standing in front of you. So treat everyone with respect, because one day, the person you dismiss may be the one you answer to.